Okay, this lecture will be about markets, and we have just finished constructing our demand curve for a typical product or service and our supply curve for a typical product or service in a market. And from here forward in our markets, we will assume that demand follows the law of demand and supply follows the law of supply, like we established earlier. Again, the law of demand states that prices and quantity demanded are inversely related, and the law of supply states that prices and quantity supplied are positively related. In other words, if I were to put the market together, we would have our supply curve and we would have our demand curve. Now, as you can see, the two curves cross, and that makes sense. You have a positive sloping curve and a negative sloping curve. Somewhere out there in space they're going to cross. Well, this is the market, and again, remember, a market doesn't consist of just one component. A market isn't a market without supply and demand. Now, we call the intersection an equilibrium, okay? And I'll get to that in a second. The quantity at that equilibrium, I'm going to label as Q star, okay? And the price at that equilibrium, I'm going to label as P star. So we call this equilibrium P and Q. We also call this a steady state, P and Q. Now, what an equilibrium means is simply that if the market is not charging a price of P star, given holding supply and demand constant, in other words, ceteris paribus, if the market isn't charging a price of P star and isn't trading a quantity of the good Q star, isn't trading that amount of the product at that price, the market will naturally gravitate to P star, Q star. What a steady state means is that once the market is charging a price of P star and trading a quantity of Q star, steady state simply means that the market has no incentive to deviate from that price and quantity level. Let's show why this makes sense, okay? So what we're going to do first is I'm going to draw another market graph down here, and just like the one above. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to intentionally put the market price above P star, okay? And we're going to call this P prime. Now, back here under market equilibrium, as I just mentioned, Q star is the quantity that is being traded on the market. Remember what a traded quantity means. Producers can put as much product on the store shelf as they want. If it's not being traded for cash at the cash register, it is not a quantity that has been traded. And consumers can demand all the product they want. It doesn't matter until the supplier puts some amount of product on the store shelf, and that product again can be traded for cash. It is not a quantity traded. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind. Where would the quantity traded be down here? Well, we can see the amount of product that will be put on store shelves is equal to that. That's the quantity supplied at that price level. But the amount that people are willing to purchase is only this amount. Okay, that is the quantity demanded. Therefore, by definition, then that has to be the quantity traded of the product. Okay, now what does this mean? This means that there's this much product on store shelves, but there's only this much product being bought at the cash register. The rest of this we call one of two things, either excess supply or otherwise known as a surplus of the product. Okay. Now, this is inefficient. And why is it inefficient? Well, because firms obviously have too much product on store shelves. Product can go bad over time. And aside from that, it's not wise for a firm to overproduce product. Just common sense tells you that. Why produce more product than you can sell? You're just wasting resources. So having a surplus of a product is inefficient. Now, how can the market rid itself of this inefficiency? Well, obviously, the incentive for firms is to get rid of that surplus, get rid of that excess product on the store shelf. One easy way they can do that, of course, is by lowering the price level of the product. As they lower the price level of the product, according to the law of demand, they will increase the quantity demanded of the product. At the same time, however, it reduces the firm's incentive to produce as much product as they had produced. Okay, meaning that when you have a surplus of a product, inefficiencies in the market exists, and the way firms would rid themselves of the inefficiency is to push the price downward. Okay, but that just says prices. When prices are at P prime, the market will have an incentive to push prices downward. Doesn't say anything about whether prices will actually stop and equilibrate at P star. So let's draw our market graph again and complete this analysis. Okay, so we've got supply, we've got demand. Now, let's assume that the price level of the product is at P double prime, which is below equilibrium price level. Okay, now the key here again is to determine what the actual quantity demand is going to be. Now, at this low of a price level, you've got a lot of people that want the product, but firms don't have an incentive to put much product on the store shelf. Okay, so you have this much product being demanded at that price level, but you only have this much product being put on store shelves. By definition, then, this quantity supplied must be the quantity that's traded at the cash register. This difference here is called excess demand, otherwise known as a shortage. Now, what this means, let's go back over here for a second. What this means, imagine a grocery store, and every Thursday morning, the Coca-Cola distributor comes and hits the soft drink aisle in preparation to restock the shelves for the upcoming weekend. Weekends probably being the strongest sales in soft drinks, strongest for sales in soft drinks. So this guy turns the corner of the soft drink aisle, and he looks at his area where Coca-Colas are. In terms of surplus, what he still sees a lot of product left on the store shelf. Okay. But in this case, he sees no product left on the store shelf. Now, what's interesting is that when he turns the corner on the soft drink aisle on Thursday morning, if he's in equilibrium, in other words, if he's priced his product whereby the amount of product that he puts on the store shelf every Thursday, when he gets back the following Thursday, if he's priced it properly, he has no product left on the store shelf. But in this case, he not only has no product left on the store shelf, but a line has formed. And this line of people are simply waiting for him to restock the store shelf. Okay, and that's how you can tell a shortage different from equilibrium. That's key number one. Key number two, however, is that this is also inefficient. Not only are people wasting their time essentially standing in line for the product, but if this Coke salesman increased the price of his product, he can actually increase the quantity that's traded in the product. I know this sounds odd, but when you're running a shortage, you can actually increase the price of the product and sell more product. And that's a no-brainer. In other words, this Coke salesman's leaving money on the table because he's not charging high enough price. He's got plenty of demand for it. But as he raises the price, this also reduces the incentive for people to purchase as much of the product as they would have at this low of a price. I mean, you can imagine, say, P double prime is 25 cents for a 2-liter bottle of Coke. Well, you'd obviously have a run on Coke. And people would stand in line waiting for him to restock the shelves at 25 cents a 2-liter. But if he charges 75 cents a 2-liter, the next time he restocks it, he's going to get rid of some of that line. Some of those people just aren't going to find it beneficial anymore to stand in line and wait for the product. But he will still sell plenty of product, and he will be able to get more for it. So it rids the market of the inefficiency. In other words, when a market is running a surplus of good, in other words, price above equilibrium price, there's an inefficiency that exists. The product has been overproduced, and the incentive in the market is to reduce the price level to rid itself of that inefficiency. However, when price is below equilibrium price level, you have a shortage of the product. This creates a line. This creates also an incentive for firms to raise the price of the product in order to sell more product, to increase the quantity traded of the product, thereby capturing more money and not leaving any money on the table. This means an increase in price. And when this occurs, obviously, prices push down. If they're above equilibrium, prices rise. If they're below equilibrium, we're going to end up at P star as a price level in the market, prevailing price level in the market. Now, why is this a steady state? It is a steady state because once there, any deviation from that price level causes the inefficiencies we just discussed. And the market doesn't want to do that. Again, we're assuming we have rational agents. We're assuming agents in our market, firms and consumers combined, use all available resources most efficiently to achieve a desired result. Okay? And that's the way markets operate. So we are searching for the point of full efficiency, and that only occurs where the price level implies there is no surplus of the product, no shortage of the product.